Welcome back, I should say welcome back world, to Architecture History 2. This lecture will cover Chapter 18 and the years 1920 through 1940. During the first 3 decades of the 20th century, America astounded the world with a new kind of scale related to machines and mechanical production. Tall buildings pushed several times above the traditional 7-story height, fragmenting the skylines. At the same time, elevated highways directed to the suburbs broke down the lateral dimensions of the urban fabric. Lincoln, Nebraska, state capital, Bertram Goodhue, 1922. Project for the Grand Hotel, Eliel Saarinen, 1923, a Finnish architect, Chicago. The winning entry for the 1922 Chicago Tribune Tower competition, Raymond Hood and John Meadow Howells, 1922 through 1925. Skyscrapers structured on steel girders and equipped with high-speed elevators remain America's most important contribution to architecture. Most high-rise projects designed in the beginning of the 1920s still relied on some form of historicist detail to accentuate verticality. The image on the left, in New York, Tower of the American Radiator Building, Hood, 1924. The image of the right is a sketch of a 1925 pyramidal massing for high-rises according to the 1906 zoning ordinance from Hugh Ferris, Metropolis of Tomorrow, 1929. The New York Chrysler Building, William Van Allen, 1929 through 1931. You would be remiss if you did not imagine or envision King Kong at the top swatting airplanes. Philadelphia, PSFS Building, George Howe and William Lescaze, 1931 in Philadelphia. In New York, GM Futurama exhibition at the World's Fair, Norman Bel Geddes, 1939. American urban life changed dramatically with Ford's democratization of the automobile. Bel Geddes predicted for 1960 a country dominated by automobiles, and he was right. During the Depression, Frank Lloyd Wright reemerged with a series of stunning modernist projects. Unlike European solutions to low-income housing, Wright insisted on the detached dwelling and the value of American individualism. He designed several prototypes, this one being the Jacobs House. Madison, Wisconsin, first Jacobs House, Frank Lloyd Wright, 1936. His most famous work was Falling Water, a resounding technical and aesthetic achievement. Rarely had a building been so beautifully incorporated with natural conditions of its site. Bear Run, Pennsylvania, Kaufman House, aka Falling Water, 1936. Wright established his own version of an educational atelier, a Taliesin Fellowship. He created a winter studio in the open desert landscape of Scottsdale, built into the ground and originally roofed with canvas. The structure derived from Native American dugout buildings. This image showing the Kaufman. Oh, that's not correct. This is the Taliesin, not Falling Water. This image, Los Angeles, Level Health House, Richard Neutra, 1927. One of Wright's largest projects demonstrated his creative struggle between craftsman's desire to design every aspect of a structure and the effort to work with modern technology. In this case, the Racine, Wisconsin Johnson Wax offices, Wright, 1939. Same building, Racine, Wisconsin Johnson Wax Research Tower, Wright, 1944. Same campus, I should say. During the first half of the 20th century, many artists and architects used the word modern to signify a break from the past. Such avant-garde movements as Cubism, Futurism, Expressionism, Dadaism, Neoplasticism, and Constructivism led to artistic and architectural works of great formal novelty. Le Corbusier, a Swiss-born French architect, became the most influential modernist architect of the 20th century. He experimented with the industrial aesthetic in one of the first projects, the 1923 Ozenfant House, here shown in facade. Villa Savoy, the exterior of which is shown on the top, is Le Corbusier and Jeanneret, 1923-1931, and the comparative plans of the three levels of Villa Savoy and 3 levels of the Melnikov House in Moscow, the bottom plans. Le Corbusier used a point load structure of reinforced concrete. Melnikov built his house with thick brick walls. Each was interested in open plan with rooftop terrace. Le Corbusier best fulfilled his 5 points in his most famous house, the Villa Savoy. Set in the midst of a large wooded site, the flat box on stilts conveyed the feeling of rupture from the architecture of the past as powerful as a shock of Cubist paintings, yet its pure volumetric starkness evoked a Greek temple, the staircase at Villa Savoy. Le Corbusier considered architecture a redeeming mission. His ideal vision of society involved collective solutions for urbanism and housing. For the 1925 Exhibition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs, Le Corbusier and his friends prepared the Esprit Nouveau Pavilion. In this Bologna, Italy, reconstruction of the Esprit Nouveau Pavilion, Le Corbusier 1925, depicted here. In 1947, Unité de Habitation in Marseille served as reconstruction housing for about 1,600 people. While he intended the unit as a model for prefabrication, he gave it many artisan touches. This image depicting the unit in 1946 through 1952, and the very famous pilotis on the exterior, at the base. Section showing the innovative double height space and cross ventilation permitted for each apartment. Elevators stopped at every other floor. In all of his later projects, in particular the dolmen-like pilgrimage church of Notre-Dame des Hauts et Ronchamp, completed in 1954, Le Corbusier attempted to integrate the primitive with the modern. The image of Ronchamp, what is not depicted well in this image is the level and use of color in the windows to create a prismatic interior experience. Few observers anticipated Russia's lead as the center of international revolutionary movement for socialism, and fewer still expected the artistic innovations that accompanied its revolution. The Transmitting Tower, Vladimir Sukhov, 1924. The most prolific and individualistic of the Russian avant-garde architects, Konstantin Melnikov, top. This image from Paris, the crowning figures on top of the Soviet pavilion at the World's Fair, Boris Iofan, 1937. There's the hammer, I imagine the other person has the sickle. The house and studio of Konstantin Melnikov, 1927, Moscow. The intense moment of political uncertainty of post-World War I coincided with an explosion of artistic exploration, including the founding of the Bauhaus, a state design school that became the most influential matrix of modernist design in Germany. The Bauhaus Dornach, Switzerland, Godenheim, Rudolf Steiner, 1919, rebuilt 1928. Potsdam, Germany, Einstein Tower, Erich Mendelsohn, 1919-1921. Utrecht, the Netherlands, Schroeder House, Gerrit Rietveld, 1924. And Dessau, Germany, the Bauhaus, Walter Gropius, 1926. The transfer of the Bauhaus to Dessau in 1925 allowed Gropius to design a new Bauhaus building as a manifesto of modernism. While its glazed front facades closely resembled a factory, the dynamic pinwheel of its three major wings belonged to constructivism. The last director of the Bauhaus, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, created the temporary German pavilion at the Barcelona Exposition in 1929. This image depicting the open pool, the Barcelona Pavilion by van der Rohe, and was reconstructed in 1983. Brno, Czech Republic, Trugvacht House, view of living room, Mies van der Rohe, 1930, and comparative plans are Schroeder House in Urich by Rietveld left, and Trugvacht House in Brno by Mies van der Rohe right. World War I shook up and redistributed much of Europe. Italy in 1922 gave way to an authoritarian government run by the Fascist Party and its charismatic leader Benito Mussolini. A decade later, Germany followed suit with the rise of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party. Spain also fell to military dictatorship in 1936, as had Portugal in 1932. Fascism revitalized Italian architecture as a grand frame of Mussolini's exploits. Giovanni Muzio's superhuman scale and inflated classicism became the foundation of the official fascist style. This image in Milan of Count Bruto, Giovanni Muzio, 1919-1922. The Novecento style influenced one of the first major fascist projects, begun in 1928 on the northern outskirts of Rome, the Foro Mussolini by Enrico del Debbio. It's an obelisk dedicated to Mussolini, begun in 1928. Marcello Piacentini's 1928 scheme for Piazza della Vittoria in Brescia served as the model for fascist planning and spacemaking. The Gruppo 7, founded in 1926 in Milan, and inspired by Le Corbusier and the Bauhaus, attempted to create an Italian version of functionalism. The first experiment appeared with the Novo Comum apartment block in Como. Giuseppe Torani, 1929. Giuseppe Torani's masterpiece, built as the party headquarters in Como between 1932 and 1936, presented a stylization of the Renaissance palazzo overlooking a large open piazza facing the apse of the cathedral. Torani hoped to impart the rather antithetical idea of transparency to the party. Santico, Italy, AGP Summer Camp, Giuseppe Vaccaro, 1936. Italian rationalism began to push the boundaries of fascist style after the results of several public competitions. The new Santa Maria Novella station in Florence, won by Giovanni Michelucci, and his students, opened in 1934. Mussolini hoped to reduce large cities by building a series of new towns for agricultural resettlement. The most successful was Saba Audia. 1932-1934 aerial view. City center of Saba Audia, Gino Cancellotti, Eugenio Montori, Luigi Pincinato, and Alfredo Scapelli, 1932-1934. Rome, in Europe, Palace of Italian Civilization, G. Gorini, Ila Padua, and M. Romano, 1942. The architects of Fascist Italy and Nazi Germany created grand assembly spaces and monumental public buildings as propaganda. Congress Hall, Aldoberto Libera, Labera, 1942. And then Adolf Hitler was inspired by Mussolini's success. Hitler's cultural policies condemned modernism in the arts as degenerate and poorly suited for national values. Wiesenhof-Sölung, Germany, Duplex, Le Corbusier, 1927. Some of the formal ideas of a new nationalist style derived from the National Romantic movement in Scandinavia. Stockholm Public Library, Gunnar Asplund, 1924 to 1928.